What's good, Elevators? It's your boy Elevation here with another episode of the JBP Elevated, where we speak on the Joe Budden podcast and all of his co-hosts on and off the pod. I noticed recently that the JBTV community had pictures circulating of Marc falling asleep on the pod, and this isn't the first time this has happened. Are there other things happening that's making Marc Lamont Hill tired? Oh yeah, we see it happening. He's still doing his speeches. He's still a doctor at the end of the day. He's still holding night school. He's still holding all the interviews in the world. He's still trying his hardest to take over the JBP. But in takeover, he's not gunning for Joe. Joe's plan is matriculating perfectly. Everything he wants to happen is falling in place. Marc Lamont Hill eventually will start getting political segments on the show. They've been opening up more and more to it. They're able to speak on what's currently happening in all these court cases more fluently as a result of Marc Lamont Hill. So I definitely anticipate more political segments for him. But as a result of him bringing all of these positives, all the negatives that are happening are swept to the side, at least for now. The co-hosts have already picked up on it. Like, they picked up on it immediately, as anyone would. Marc is killing? Cool. Let's see what he does outside of the norm, or let's see what he does that all of us would get admonished for. Marc is letting jokes fly, which is cool, but they're getting darker and deeper and deeper and darker the more he continues. And because he's not letting you know he's joking, his satirical levels are through the roof. And if y'all know how I feel about jokes, 80% of it is true, otherwise it'll never be funny. If he's hitting them where it hurts, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. And I'm not concerned about people's feelings. Everybody gets that misconstrued. I pay attention to people's feelings, though, because it's going to directly affect the outcome. So if he's saying things and he's pissing everybody else off, unless he can carry the show by himself, it's going to make for a worse product. And if Flip was caught falling asleep on set, we already know Joe will blow a head gasket, because he brings up all the time them being on their phones during the middle of segments. And of course, camera work it could be phenomenal, so they could just pan away, go to another co-host, go to Joe, go to Parks for a quick sec. Hey Marc, wake your ass up. And I'm not calling for him to get suspended or fired, but I am questioning what would Marc have to do to get suspended or fired. And fired is too harsh, because no one else has been fired since Rory and Mal. So let's just say suspended. He just came off a suspension because of his attitude. Melissa just came off a suspension because in their eyes, she's always playing victim. Flip has come off of a multitude of suspensions because of things that he started off doing that Marc is currently doing. Anticipate seeing more and more JBP co-hosts on Marc's channel, and Marc is smart enough to realize as long as they come over here and speak on things that I'm fluent in or I'm an expert in, it's not going to matter in Joe's eyes, because I'm just building the brand. Because I was paying attention to why Imani was on Marc Lamont Hill's page when they were speaking about the case, which is something they spoke on the JBP. But Marc is so good, he can speak on his platform and Joe's platform and give completely different answers. And Imani was more of a correspondent than giving something that he hadn't given on the JBP. So it's a win-win in Joe's eyes, because, look, nigga, you're building the brand because now you're associated with JBP. As soon as it happens, as soon as niggas come over to the network, they're now associated with the network, which is why you got to operate accordingly when you work for certain corporations, because you're associated with the corporation. Marc is building his brand, but also building the JBP because he's a part of the JBP. And all of his audience and the people that look forward to watching Marc Lamont Hill content will come over to the JBP. So, of course, there's a bunch of positives that are happening in the situation. But what's going to have to happen for Marc Lamont Hill to get off his pedestal? Because it's not going to be bad viewership for us, the audience. or the community for a couple of more months. A lot of people are going to give Marc a pass because he's done so much for the JBP initially. And I don't know if y'all recall, but I said this in the video. I think I was speaking to Amani. How you are initially perceived by somebody is how they're going to see you, regardless if you do right or wrong. So if you start off on a great foot with someone, if you make a multitude of mistakes because they have met you initially and you were such a great person in their eyes, they're going to allow more shit to slip. But if you initially meet somebody and you start off on a bad foot, it doesn't matter how much good you do to surpass that, they're always going to see you in a negative light. And every time you make a mistake after that, it's going to be associated with something that you should have done, as opposed to, damn, it was just a mistake. And since Marc came in here on go, it's been 4 or 5 months since he's officially been on the pod. He went from coming once a week, no Patreons, to we anticipate him to be on every Patreon. And when he's not, we're pissed. If he's not on the main episode, we're pissed. So Joe is doing everything in his power. Marc, shine. I wish the other co-hosts would shine in this regard so we could get this shit and throw it out of the atmosphere. But I know y'all thought this was going to be a negative video, but there are a couple of things that Marc is doing that I already know the other co-hosts would get admonished for. So if you're Marc, you're looking at this like, damn, I really am winning. So I'm going to do whatever I got to do to continue ascending. But if you're the co-host, not only are you going to have antipathy towards Marc, you're going to be frustrated because now you know Joe sees your performance in a certain light. Just like initially when Ish and Ice were the co-host and they brought on Mel and Flip, when Flip was doing all that fuckery, but he was able to continue to still be on the show, Ice and Ish looked at them, or at least Flip, a different type of way. The same thing's going to happen with Marc Lamont Hill, except not everybody's on. And they're not paying attention to the movement that Joe is making behind the scenes. They're thinking that he's still in podcast mogul mode. He's on network mogul mode now. So every guest, which is I anticipate being a lot of guests going forward because he's shopping right now. Every guest they need to look at as a competitor. We are rivals. Because I don't think anyone's job is secure outside of Marc. And if Marc doesn't get with the game plan, he's going to see how much he has ascended, and he really might make a ploy to try to take over JBP for whatever reason. Or at least, I am as just important as Parks is type shit. So that's something to look forward to, because I'm going to be honest. He is a snake, and I mean that in the best possible way. He don't give a damn if y'all are cool, if y'all are close, if y'all known each other for 15 years. If you're in the position that he wants to have or ascertain, he's going to do whatever he has to get it. And he already let Ish know, you are Mike B. You're the B Mike. He's going to do whatever he has to do to make sure he's the B Mike, or at some point in time seen as 1B. So that's something for everyone to pay attention to. The movement of Marc in the next 6 months. How does he treat the co-host? How does he speak to Joe? How does he speak to Ian? And I keep telling y'all, I would monitor Ian's pockets, I would monitor Ian's movements, and I would monitor who Ian is close with. And it's happening right in front of their faces. They're thinking this BTS shit is Marc and Ian just having good cohesion and chemistry. No, nigga. Y'all have been on BTS this entire time, and none of y'all have been in the title, let alone featured in the title, let alone the description starting off with something that is just pertaining to you. But Marc's been here for 4 months and he's already on the show. Come on, guys. And people are saying, oh, what if Ian's show is on CBS? I heard this in the spaces that I was listening to on YouTube. What if his show gets to CBS? And it's funny because you don't think there's a shot, but what happens when there's a network that takes them on? I was just watching the initial startup of Zeus. I didn't have a clue that Daystorm and Kingbot and the other girl, Cerny, the Cerny chick, were behind the startup of that. And then, of course, they got digged because they're not paying attention to the paperwork. The whole time they're talking about, we're just going to use our visibility and our audience to garner you support. And since they didn't do any paperwork, the support got garnered and they got dicked. I'm seeing all the videos pop up now. They over here trying to talk about Lenny. Lenny don't give a fuck. Y'all didn't do what y'all was supposed to do. It just reminds me of the restaurant story, and it reminds me of what's about to happen right now. And it's happening right in front of these niggas. They're not paying attention to it. Oh, yeah, that's cool. Marc's on the title. But y'all stay tuned, man. You already know what it is. We got more episodes dropping either today, later tomorrow. We got Patreon coming up. We got a main pod coming up in a couple of days. Y'all been showing mad love. We're clearly getting noticed. And I keep saying weird because as much as I'm the quote-unquote voice of this channel, a lot of the ideas that I speak on come from me interacting with y'all. So without y'all, there's no me. Without me, there's no us. Elevators all the way. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to the page if you haven't. If you have, you already know how we rocking. You already know what it is over here. It's all love on my end. Y'all stay tuned. Y'all be safe out here. Peace.